Then around 1940, the United States introduced 440 Hz worldwide. And finally in 1953, it became the ISO 16 standard. What is 440 Hz? 440 Hz is the unnatural standard tuning frequency, removed from the symmetry of sacred vibrations and overtones that has declared war on the subconscious mind of Western man. You just have to go out into the street and take a look around. What do you see? School kids, young adults, on their way to work, and what do they all have in common? iPods or MP3 players. Ingenious, isn't it? They are successfully lowering the vibrations of not only the young generation, but the rest of us as well. These destructive frequencies entertain the thoughts towards destruction, disharmony, and disunity.
Hi, this is Ed and welcome to The Outer Dark. There recently has been a lot of discussion about something strange, and that is the change to people on a very slight level that has taken place over decades, namely the 432 Hz frequency versus the 440 Hz frequency. But what is this? Well, stay tuned as The Outer Dark brings you 5 things we know about 432 versus 440. Number 5. First, some context. Music prior to 1939 was mainly tuned in 432 Hz for the most part. This was a natural or seen by researchers as an organic evolution of music through the ages in which classical music was tuned to 432 Hz. This frequency is said to be synonymous with organic projections from nature, human beings being a projection, of course, of nature. So 432 Hz was the frequency in which instruments pre-1939, again for the most part, was used in Europe and around the world. But that all changed in 1939 when an international conference held in London recommended strongly that the world frequency, at least in regards to tuning instruments, be changed to 440 Hz. After this date, the BBC, among many others around the world, required their orchestras to tune to 440 Hz. This slowly changed the tuning mechanics now being used as an industrial standard to 440 Hz. A major change from the organic 432 Hz to the 440 Hz. Only 14 years later, in 1955, 440 Hz became the standard that was adopted by industrial standards worldwide. The question people are now asking is, was there a more sinister reason for the change? Since a number of researchers have stated that people feel differently under the long-term influence of music and broadcasts at 440 Hz than they actually do at the natural organic broadcast of 432 Hz. So is there evidence of a difference? Well, number 4. First we have to start with the difference itself, and there is one. Take a look at these different examples of how music played at 432 Hz forms different particle patterning than it does when played at 440 Hz. Take a look. Now this is a widely known phenomenon in regards to sound and how it affects particles, but at least here we can see a difference between the two frequencies. As noted, 432 Hz appears less broken, more symmetrical, while the frequency at 440 Hz seems more broken and more distorted. The effects this would have on the human being over a long period of time is of course unknown, but if we use logic and scientific principle, we can note that because there is a measurable change and a visual one, that there must be indeed a change to humans. After all, humans are physical creatures whose physiology affects their overall psychological well-being. The only question is how much does this affect a human? Does it come down to A difference in small thoughts, leading a response to information in a subtle, almost immeasurable way? Or is it larger and maybe even a physiological effect on cells or the human nervous system? Number 3. Now, of course, it's hard to find evidence of any long-term studies given the nature of this on human beings, but there is a couple of examples, at least in regards to plants, as well as a whole host of anecdotal evidence, such as plant growers noting that when classical music is actually played to, let's say, grape growers, that their grapes actually grow larger. In essence, they have better yields. This goes back to the idea that classical music is better for crops, and of course classical music is mainly tuned to the 432 frequency, at least if it's pre-industrial standard. Now, to be fair, there's not much studies in relation to the 440 band versus the 432 band or frequency in regards to the effect on plants. There's only a relationship between classical music and plant growth. However, there was a study that took place in the National Institute of Biotechnology in South Korea, which monitored the effect of frequencies on plants and in none less than DNA, and it showed that there was a relationship between 125 Hz and 250 Hz, which showed in essence the pretty amazing fact that these frequencies actually directly affected plant growth. The question is, if these frequencies affected plant growth in a significant way, the actual DNA of the plants and their ability in order to absorb sunlight, then what does the 440 frequency and the differential between that and the 432 frequency? That is, if frequencies actually affect plant growth, then what are the effects of other frequencies like 440 and 432 in relation to human beings? Well, that is unknown, but there is here clear evidence of an effect on frequencies on living plants at least. So here at least we have clear evidence that actual frequencies affect the DNA of living structures, in this case plants, and their growth. Number 2, of course it does not have to be classical. Any music can be taken and converted to play at 432 Hz. You just have to convert it yourself, since all modern music post 1955 at least, and earlier, is actually subscribes to the industrial standard of using 440 Hz. So this is not a difference between classical music or modern music. This is a difference between the fundamental tuning of the instruments and how it's recorded and projected. But if you want to listen to the music and see if you can actually pick up anything yourself, although that would be hard to do since they both sound so similar, have a listen to both frequencies played with the same music and see if you can pick up the difference yourself. Have a listen. One of the most interesting things to consider is if there's a frequency effect within sand particles, what does that have to do with water? Because of course the human body is made up of 70% or more of in fact water. So would this effect have an actual change within the physiology itself if the frequency has such a different change within water itself? Well, here is one experiment that someone performed. Take a look. But if there is a measurable difference in plant growth, at least if we're using logic, and there's a difference within visual evidence in regards to particles and frequency, as you can see here, then is there a difference? Well, most likely there is a difference, at least at some level, even if it's a small minute difference within the psychology or the human system itself, there no doubt would be some influencing difference. Because if science tells us anything, it tells us one thing, and that's energy affects other energy. Within a system like this, where you're dealing with frequencies, you're talking about the exchange of energy. But then again, everything in our natural world affects us, at least in some way. From the food you eat, from the air you breathe, to the water you drink, everything has some effect on you. The question, of course, is how large is the effect? But just because you cannot prove it on a mass scale does not mean you cannot prove it on a minute scale. So perhaps you should just go out and listen to some music at these frequencies and see if your mood improves. Have a look, you can play it yourself and of course decide for yourself. As goes for everything in the video, go out and do your own research and of course come to your own conclusions. In the meantime though, let me know what you think in the comments section. Maybe have a listen to the music and tell me your effects as well as others, and give the video a thumbs up if you did like it. That would of course help me out a lot. And in the meantime, this is Ed from the Outer Dark, and take care, and I'll see you guys later.